Do you wish somebody wrote down the recipe for your parenting challenges? Did you want tips and tricks to become a better mama for you and your babies? I know I do. If you're a mother who feels that you are doing the best you can with the hands you've been dealt, but you're still getting it done, then this podcast is for you. I'm so glad you tuned in to Nailed It Motherhood because we might have the recipe that nobody wrote down. What's up, everybody? You're listening to Nailed It Motherhood podcast, and I'm your host with the most, Tamara Eldridge. Listeners, I want to thank you all for being so supportive of me during this first year of recording my podcast and putting out episodes. I have had some pretty amazing mamas on the show, and I'm eager to just keep going with all the moms that are submitting to be a guest on the show and share their personal parenting journey. Do not forget, we do have a website, and that is www.naileditmotherhood.com. Please go visit the website and sign up and subscribe so that you can get the latest news and updates when we have new episodes. Now, let's go on to the show. Parents, if you need inspiration to push as a parent, let our next guest be your #goals. She did it, but she did it twice, and she is thriving in her empty nest life. Today, we will hear from a mother who wants to share nuggets of wisdom she has learned from her adult children, as well as the importance of the 4 Ps when it comes to raising children. I know. You want to know the secret, right? Well, we will get to that, but you must first know that this mama who has all this wisdom that she's learned through the years is here with us today. Today, I want to welcome to the mic my sister friend, Dr. Zanthia Reddish. I have had the honor, true honor, to know her through ministry, where we were there for a very little time, but I also had the honor to be the youth leader to her wonderful sons. Zanthia is passionate, motivated, and let me tell you, you are going to need to be ready to hear from her because she not only brings experience as a parent, but also as an educator. So, Zanthia, Dr. Z, welcome to Nailed It Motherhood.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much.
I'm very honored that you even chose to be on the show. Go ahead. I cut you off.
No, I'm actually honored to be here. I'm so proud of you for doing this. I was so excited when I saw that you were starting this podcast. I think it's so needed.
Thank you. And I will tell you, and I feel like I've told a couple people, it is needed, and it's needed for me because watching my little 4-year-old just bust out with all this personality and me having the personality that I have, it's like we're butting heads all the time. So I need all of this wonderful advice that all of the parents are giving. And man, when I tell you this is #therapy, I know hashtag is a thing now. But we are going to get into your personal parenting journey in just a little bit. But before we do that, I have a long way to go before I get to this place that you are. But I'm super elated to hear everything that you have to say. But let's chat about my baby, whom you've already given me a big challenge offline. And I have a lot to think about. I see you're laughing, and that's quite all right. I have really been thinking about this hard, and I think I might take your advice, but I'm still thinking. But before I go on, let me just share a little bit about Tavia and her leadership ability. So we were doing Valentine's Day cards the other day, and she has 22 kids in her class. So she had to sign her name to all of the kids. And then we did that on day 1. And she is such an organizer that she's like, Mom, you do these and I'll write the name on them. Like she tells me what it is sometimes. And it's just like, I just have to sit back and let her lead sometimes because that's who she's going to grow to be. So I have to, kind of nurture that characteristic in her. And it's funny, it's fun, and it's stressful all at the same time. But I cut little slits in the Valentine's Day cards so that we can stick a lollipop in them because it didn't come with one and I didn't want to put tape on it. So I would cut the slit and then I would slide it over to her and she would put the lollipop in it. And then she was having a hard time doing the lollipop. So she told me, this is what I'm going to do. Mommy, I will start the lollipop and then I'm going to give it to you. And then you're going to finish putting the lollipop in. And then you can give it back to me and I'll put it in the baggie. Okay. Okay. Okay, mommy. So it's just amazing to watch her kind of boss it up. Like she is the true definition of boss baby. So I felt like you would appreciate that because of who you are and because of just your years of being in education and watching little babies grow up and watching them grow into leaders. So, yeah, that's my baby. She is the boss of the house. That's what
I
she
love
thinks.
it.
Yeah, you can't
I
help but
love
love
it. I
it.
love it.
All right, listeners. I
Yeah.
know you don't want to hear any more about me and my baby. We want to hear about Dr. Z. So I'm going to read her bio and then immediately following, I'm giving her the floor to share her personal parenting journey. Are y'all ready? All right, here we go. Dr. Zanthia, aka Dr. Z, the ball mom doc, is an edupreneur, retired school principal, speaker, author, consultant, and founder and CEO of Empowered Educational Consulting. Specializing in supporting schools, parents of athletes, and women in transition, Dr. Z offers principal and instructional coaching, professional development, and training programs. As a certified professional life coach and author, she guides women through transformative life transitions like empty nesting with triumph and grace. Leveraging her experience as an MBA mom, Dr. Z provides athlete transition coaching for families of athletes in grades 5 through 8, aiding them in navigating both sport and school programs to achieve their goals. With 5 degrees, y'all, including a Doctor of Education, she resides in Atlanta with her husband and 2 adult sons. Dr. Z, the floor is yours, and I am so excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I do hope that I don't let you down,
Oh, you
but
could
I'm
never.
excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk with you. I mean, my parenting journey, wow. I have to say, you read that bio, and I love all the titles. I love all the degrees and all that stuff. But I promise you, the very, very best title I have is mom. And I'm telling you right now, if one of my kids calls this very second, I would be like, hold on. I got to take the call. That's how we're doing. And that's how it gets when you're the parent of adult children. But, this started my parenting journey started 24 years ago. So my oldest is 24, my youngest is 21, and I have 2 boys. And I'm married to my guy, my homeboy, Bob. And he and I, we were not expecting Mr. Cameron, our first born. We weren't trying not to have him, but literally, I guess we were so elated after our marriage that we decided to get pregnant on our honeymoon. God bless America. So before I could really get used to being called wife, I was being called mom because that came quickly thereafter. It kind of took over everything once my belly started to show. And I was like one of those moms that was like, I love being pregnant. I loved everything about it. I thought it was cute. I love my little baby bump. And I was blessed enough not to have any health challenges at all. No fatigue, no nothing. And I lost weight while I was pregnant. God knows we wish we could go back to those days. But anyway, so had Cameron, and he was just everything we ever wanted. We were so excited, even though we weren't planning for him. We were super excited to have him, and he's always been a really, I would say, definitely of my two kids, he's the easier child to parent. Let me say that. Well, at least he was as a little boy. Now as an adult, I think Aaron's a little bit easier. That's probably because of their lives. So we had Aaron almost 3 years later. So they're 2 years, 9 months apart. And I do feel like that's kind of like the best amount of time apart because they're very close, but far enough apart that they're not too far where they lose that connection. They're very, very close to each other. And I appreciate that. Although I've read that the ideal span between children is really about 4 years, 4 to 5 years, so that when one finishes college, the other one is starting and you're not getting hit with those two bills. But fortunately for me, my children both went to college on scholarship. Glory be to God. Okay. So I had Aaron a few years later, and Aaron was planned. Unlike Cameron, Aaron was planned. I wanted a baby, and we talked about it, and we literally went home and we had a baby a few months later. So, 9 months later. So that's again a really easy pregnancy, but delivery was tougher. Okay, so enough about the beginning. So that's how it was. They came all through school. They were in our public school, and I made the decision to move them into different schools once some opportunities arose for my older son, Cam. He got a lot of attention because of his athletic acumen, and he was afforded opportunities to go to private schools. And I then leveraged that to get Aaron an opportunity to go to those same private schools. But interestingly, this all started when Cameron was in 5th grade. I want to say he was like 10 or 11. And we weren't really sure what to do. And at that particular time, we decided, even though he had opportunities to go to much bigger, more prestigious schools, we decided to send him to a little school called Penn Christian Academy. And that 1 year that he stayed at that school changed his life because that's the year that he gave his life to Christ on his own at a school function. And I think it kind of dictated the rest of our lives for both boys. Because from there, we were able to put them in different private schools based on Cameron's ability. And it was good. They went through school. Again, I mentioned they both earned scholarships for college. Cameron ended up only going to college for 1 year and then going into the NBA. And my younger son is now in his junior year of college at University of Albany. I was a principal. Okay. So what you need to know is I was a school principal all while they were growing up. I was very strategic. I wanted to finish my degrees. I wanted to have both a life and, my profession. So I did both. And I was very intentional about my parenting because of the experiences I had as an elementary school principal. I had conversations with my husband. We decided we would be very strategic about the schools we picked. We learned very early on that our children were not really into school like I am. They didn't really care for school all that much, but I knew that they had a future that I wanted to make sure they had opportunities. And so I did introduce those 4 Ps when I talked to you about what I wanted to talk about today. And one of them I think is really important. It's the first P I want to talk about is positivity. And I say that because I believe as a principal, I was much more focused on making sure my children achieved what I wanted them to achieve. So I was very focused on that. And I don't think I was as positive as I could have been. And I would say, honestly, culturally, I think we have a challenge in our culture a lot of times as not being very positive. And I can recall being intentional having a conversation with a friend who also worked with me about recognizing that I said no too often. And I had a conversation with Bob, and we decided we were going to be intentional about saying yes. Because a lot of times I notice my children are very, very compliant, especially Cameron. Cameron was extremely compliant. Aaron tried me, but Cameron was extreme. But it wasn't because he wanted to be. It's because he thought he had to be. So I think I wish I had said yes a lot more when they were younger. But I have to tell you, it was all for me about the second P, which was preparation. I really wanted to make sure that they were prepared for what was next. So as I mentioned, they didn't really love school, but I made sure that I researched the schools and positioned them to be in the specific schools that I knew would allow them to meet their goals. So it was about making sure that they were prepared, which is a lot like I do with the work that I do for families of athletes, and then also in school systems where I go in and provide assistance to them. It's really about making sure that adequate preparation is in place so that everyone can meet their goals. So that's really important. And that's part of the conversation that you and I had talked about. I wanted to make sure that your daughter is prepared for her school career, et cetera. We'll talk about that later. So there's that. And then they had a really good, I would say they had a really good experience. I would say that Aaron, I think life in general was a little bit more challenging for Aaron because I think it's just hard being the younger brother of someone who's really well achieved and doing all kinds of things. He just couldn't get outside of his shadow, which is one of the reasons why he chose the college that he chose, which was complete different conference than Cameron's conference. Even though they both play basketball, he really wants to make his own way. And I can appreciate that. He's figuring it out in college. It's been a real challenge. But with my background as an educator, I just kind of expect them to kind of do, even though they don't love school. I'm like, but I taught you how to do school, so do it and do it right. They take on their own personalities and do whatever they want to do when they become adults, just so you know. And so I had to really help Aaron navigate his transition into college. It was challenging. And now that my children are older, now we're able to have conversations that, from what I understand now from my 24-year-old, they didn't feel comfortable having those conversations with me then because they really saw me as probably just as much a principal at home as I was at school. And that meant you had to follow the rules or you were going to the office and you were going to get trouble or whatever. So now they tell me that, there were some things that they wish I had done differently. So that's the benefit of having adult children. I promise you, I thought I got it right. I thought I did everything right because I was so intentional. But they let me know didn't appreciate everything. One of the things they talked about was not having as much choice in what they had to do. They felt like I made all the decisions. Now, let me be clear. I believed I was making it very much a choice. We did Likert charts and we did all kinds of, had all kinds of family meetings and stuff because we had lots of decisions to make around Cameron's schooling, Aaron's schooling, their careers, all those kinds of things. And from what I understand, Cameron felt like it was only my decision to make and he just went along with it, which is what he always had to do. So that third P that I had mentioned, I would like to mention is perspective, because it wasn't until just recently actually that I had the opportunity to really hear from them and learn from them what their perspective was around their childhood experience. My view of it was so different than what they describe it as. And I think sometimes as parents, we may need to consider other perspectives, not just the one that we intended to convey throughout our years of parenting. So now they're both pretty much thriving in their own right. But I will say that a lot of that had to do with, again, the strategy around me making sure that they were prepared and positioning them. That's the final P, positioning them to meet their goals. I knew very early on they were both very talented, very, very smart, very charismatic, just great kids. So I wanted to put them in the best position to maximize all of their attributes. And I think I did a good job of that. However, as I mentioned, Cameron told me there were some things that he would have definitely have chosen to do differently. So, however, what he can't deny is that he was in the position to meet all of his goals. And because of it, he's now in his 5th year in the MBA, and Aaron will be finishing college in another year. So that's a bit of our journey. I've gotten here. I always say we started from the bottom, now we're here. We were from Pennsylvania to Atlanta, and we are enjoying the empty nesting experience. But if I'm honest, it was probably the most challenging season I've ever experienced, was going through that. So, but I'm glad to be here.
And we are super glad that you're here to share all of that wisdom that you just dropped. Now, one thing I noticed is that you did not mention your most recent book. So my first question is, are these 4 Ps in that book, or are they in the first book, or are these just things that you feel like work together for parenting as a whole?
So I would say these things work together for parenting as a whole. They are in the books because there are actually multiple books. Let me share. So, I have a firm that's called Empowered with an I and 2D Educational Consulting, and we service 3 different groups. But our main groups are the first group that I really spend a lot of time working with, and the most recent book that I have out it's called Alley Oop: The Ultimate Assist for Parents of Athletes. And I wrote that book because of my experience as an athlete. I was benefited enough to be able to have access that a lot of people will not have access to because of Cameron's natural ability and his recognition he got early on. He was top 10 all the way from 6th grade on. And so I learned a lot, met a lot, learned, and I wanted to be able to pass that forward and continue to help other families. So now we work specifically, again, around preparation. Remember that second P was being prepared. Preparation for middle school youngsters. We start 5th grade through 8th grade because that's where it all started for us. We had to start figuring this stuff out. We help coach the families, parents of athletes through those transitions and help them position their athletes to earn scholarships for high school and college. And that takes very strategic preparation and positioning. So that's 2 of the P's. And absolutely all throughout the book, we talk about positivity, and certainly we talk about perspective. So it's definitely in that book. But I also have to mention, as I shared with you, I have another book that's going to be coming out that is dealing with helping women through transition periods. And as I mentioned, my empty nest experience, while I'm living and thriving in it now, it was a survival situation when I first got there. I wasn't sure how or if I would make it. And so that book helps other people who have lost themselves to parenting and other life experiences find themselves again. And so it is a process. And so I thought, again, how can I pay this forward to be able to help other people get through it? So literally, that's what that's about. So the 4 Ps are definitely all up and through both of those books. And I like to say they're all through my life as well.
That's awesome. When would you feel like you came up with those 4 Ps? Was it like in the heat of it all? Or was it, you're a planner, so did you sit down and say, I need to do something to make this work for me, so I'm going to come up with a plan, and then you decided that the 4 Ps is what you wanted to thrive on as a parent? Or was it something that you looked back at and said, how could I be better as a parent? these things would help. When did you come up with that?
I would actually say it was probably split, right? The two things I was always focusing on was positioning and preparing my boys. And that just comes from, as you mentioned, the planner in me, the principal in me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what the systems were, what it would entail. So I had to be strategic. And why not do that? Now I want to make sure other parents are able to do that as well. And that's what I do through the educational consulting firm. The positivity and perspective, those are the things that I learned later. Those are the things when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, how would things have been different had I been a little bit more positive? How might my boys have looked at themselves? Did I inadvertently transfer my nervous energy and stress around wanting them to be all that they could be? Did I snatch some of their confidence in the process
Wow.
because I was pushing
Yeah.
too hard? So that perspective is one of those things I feel is something when you look back as opposed to looking forward. And then certainly I do. I wish I had said yes more. I wish I had had more fun. I was so focused on making sure that they made it that we didn't make it fun. Like, I'll tell you what, Cameron will say to me now, I mean, you made us read on vacation. Like, he's like, who does that? It was the summertime. You know, this is part of the parenting things that he's saying. Now, I thought, well, I'm just teaching you responsibility and I want you to read. Now, my kids, my nephew, we couldn't stop him from reading. But my kids, I told you, they ain't really like school like that. So I'm like, well, we're just going to have our strict little schedule and we'll just do 20 minutes of reading here at the hotel and then we'll go down to the pool. And to this day, that's what he brings up. Like, who does that? Why couldn't we just be on vacation like normal people? So again, I do wish I had lightened up, smiled, laughed a little bit more than we did.
Do you feel like physically you pushing took a toll on you? And I'm asking because I can see myself pushing. And it's more draining for me than it is for her. Obviously, she could just close her eyes and keep it moving. And I'm like, and you're not listening to me now. So do you think it took a toll on you physically and mentally?
I think it definitely took a toll on me when it came to Aaron. So my boys are two very different beings. They grew up in the same house, but they're very different. And Aaron had more behavioral challenges in school as we were trying to figure out what all this attention and hyperactivity was that he had going on. And so Cameron had a little bit of it too, but Cameron, again, he's a compliant kid. So he was going to do everything he was supposed to do. That's who he is. Aaron was my more curious kid to this day. Aaron's a lot more fun. Quite frankly, Cameron was like me, hyper focused on what his goal was. And that was great because he met it. But geez, have some fun, laugh a little. You know, Aaron maybe was laughing all the time. Maybe we needed Aaron to stop laughing and grow up, though, you know? But I feel like it drained me. It became exhaustive trying to get him to do things that I thought developmentally he should already be doing. He's always been one of the older kids in his class, just because I believe in giving children the gift of time. I've seen when it works, and I definitely have seen when it doesn't as a principal over, for almost 20 years. So I'm very particular about that. Cameron's birthday is in September. Aaron's is in May. So Aaron ended up being an older kid because I kept him thinking he just wanted to play all the time. He just wanted to play all the time. Guess what? He's 21. He's still playing. I'm just saying. So he needed that extra time. So I think it wore me down. I was fortunate to have a really great support system. My husband's amazing. So I could see how it would be really challenging though, running behind these boys, keeping up with their schedules, which were bananas through their, adolescent years. And, we figured it out. We did it. I don't remember how, but we did it. And we're still doing it.
That was actually one of my questions, the schedule, because not only were you raising two boys in two different schools, but you were a leader. You weren't just a staff member at the school. You were the staff member at the school. Whenever you see principal, you're like, that's the face of the school. And you did that for years, but you were also getting multiple degrees. How the heck did that schedule work? Like, can you talk a little bit about time management when it comes to high achieving kids that are very active?
Absolutely. You know what? I'm telling you, I promise you, people are like, how? How did you do it? And to be honest with you, I look back on it, you don't think about it while you're doing it. And that's one of the things I talk about, even in my books. Um, you're just doing it. And then by the time you get through it, you've done it. You may not remember all the highlights, but you've done it. Our schedule was stupid. I'm not even going to lie. I worked full time, like you said, principaling, because I did love my work. But I went to every game. I went to, if we had to split, somebody was in the stands for every game. We traveled literally the world. I mean, Egypt, Italy, all over the United States, like just everywhere with basketball. When my children were, before Cameron could drive, I remember at this one private school, he trained full time during the school year. I would leave the school after my school day ended. I would pick him up from school. I would drive an hour and 15 minutes in traffic over to Jersey. I would do work while he was training. And then we would drive. It was a little shorter on the way back because there wasn't traffic, like an hour back home, like 4 days a week. When I tell you tens of thousands of miles on the cars between all their games throughout the tri-state, because we were, Philly, DC, and Jersey at a minimum. We just did it. We just did it. And I don't have any regrets. Even now at 24 and 21, we live in Atlanta, but both boys, Cameron plays in LA, Aaron has in school in New York. We're in New York twice a week, at least 2 to 3 days a week. We go to all of his games, and we're in LA at least once a month. And we watch his games on TV because he's at work, so we don't have to go to all his games anymore. But it's a process. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. We just do it. You just do it. And I'm a high achieving type of person. I like to get things done. So it didn't take too much for me to do that. It's just a matter of managing a schedule. I'll tell you this: people do what they want to do. So if parents tell me that they don't want to and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't believe that. Sometimes our work schedules get crazy, but I'm that chick who's on the plane, on the train, doing all kinds of stuff. Even when I was completing my doctorate, I had a goal of finishing it before Cameron was in 6th grade so that I could be at all of his games and not in the evening classes. I would carry my wheel cart into the gym and be sitting there with my laptop while I'm watching the game, up and down, watching. So we can do what we want to do. We'll get it done.
And baby, did she do it. Dr. Z not only did all of the things that she just said, but she was also a leader in ministry. Yeah, she was the it girl. You're like, what are you saying? What are you saying? Yes, Dr. Z, you were the it girl.
Yes.
I used to love when the boys were actually a part of the Friday Night Live segment, and Aaron has the gift. He has the gift to make people laugh for sure. And I understood why they had to get pulled. Like, he's training 4 days a week. There's no way you're coming on Friday Night Live every Friday and memorizing the lines on top of everything like he was working full time as a student. So that's a lot. That is a lot.
Yeah.
I love the 4 Ps. I do. I think one of the benefits of doing Nailed It Motherhood podcast is that I am, like I said earlier, I'm really taking notes and I'm really pulling all of these things and trying to see how they can be applied to my life. Um, and one of the things that you said that you had to work on, and it was like the second part of the split was positivity. And I like what you said. I like what you said, but I don't like what you said because it's true. There's truth in it about our culture not being more forceful and aggressive when we're trying to be focused about a thing. And it's very challenging. How would you start if you are
Yeah.
naturally um prone to just I'm when it comes to me, I'm a very focused person. If I want it done, I'm going to say what I want. I'm going to say it firm and I'm going to expect you to do it. Now, if I come back and you still didn't do it, now I got a little attitude. So I'm going to come up with a little bit more force and I'm going to walk away and expect that it's done. If I have to come back a third time, now this is a problem. And this isn't everything that I've done. I directed the gospel choir. I've done the plays at the church. People were like, Sister Tammy is mean. Sister Tammy's not mean. Sister Tammy is trying to get to the end goal. But it's not looked at as a good quality. So how would you say to me, you got to change. You have to change the way you're presenting. Be more positive. Bring positivity into your parenting. What is the first thing that you have to do to try to be a positive parent?
Okay. I listen. Again, this is one of those things where I can reflect, and I definitely want to share this with you. As I mentioned, I do remember going through this with one of the, like I said, one of my friends who I saw as a much more positive mom. And what we decided to do was say yes intentionally because our natural is to say no. What I'm learning is, well, actually, the research is really clear. We parent the way we were parented. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't often necessarily recognize how the way that your parents parented you impacts the way that you parent your children. And for
Right.
some, if you're conscious of it, if you're conscious, if you're really saying, okay, I want certain outcomes to be and certain outcomes not to be. You know, those things you didn't love about your child, you're like, oh, I'm definitely not doing that. Well, the challenge with it is sometimes you are who you are because of whose child you are, whoever raised you.
Right.
And for me, I learned that my parents were both very um, negative. They didn't know it in their heart. God bless them. They didn't know they were negative. What I mean by negative, they would they would see the crooked picture in the beautifully clean room, not the fact that the room was clean. And
Yeah.
I inherited that same quality. I thought I wouldn't. I'm like, oh no, I would never be like them. My Cameron tells me you absolutely were like them. And furthermore, here's the funny thing. I'm like, but you're the same way. So guess what? The parenting then rubbed off. Now he's going to be the same way with his own children. But so yeah, I would say you have to be intentional about it, about really saying yes, breaking some of those, I would say, generational curses around that, because it's not a good thing. Our children grow up a lot sadder, much more unhappy than other cultures. You know, and that's not okay because that's something we can control. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing I want to add and I want to share around um, how we engage our children. Um, I really the yelling and the again, I don't know what your childhood experience was, but again, we tend to act out some of the things that happened to us. We got yelled at, maybe we straightened up, and that's why we try it with our children because we think it's going to work with them. But I have a strategy. I should have patented it. Um, but here's what you can do. I would suggest all of you mothers with young children establish some family expectations. I would do it with your children, just like making classrooms rules, where they get to help you decide how your household is going to be run, what things that you're going to tolerate. 5 of them, because young people can't hold too many of them. When my children were very young, I gave them 5 different family rules and expectations. Things like I will listen the first time. Things like I will be respectful toward my brother. Things like, I will do my best, those kinds of things. And so when they weren't doing what was on our list of 5 things, they ultimately had to owe the house part of their allowance. They were given allowance. They were given allowance every week as an inheritance for being a Reddish. I wanted them to have value in their name. And I also didn't want money to run through their fingers. So they grew up knowing that money cometh because I am royalty. I deserve money, right? So they got this money, but when they did not behave appropriately, when they violated one of those rules, I did not have to raise my voice. I simply referenced the number. For instance, our very first one was, I will listen the first time. Aaron, as I described, he was a little bit more challenging in his parenting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when Aaron sometimes he didn't always want to get up for school. So I would remember I would call him, Aaron, get up. Let me tell you something. When I would go in that room and Aaron was still in the bed, I didn't have to yell. I'll turn back the covers and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said that you were supposed to be out of the bed. He would flip those covers off. I'm listening. I listened the first time. I didn't have to do a whole bunch of yelling because I said, it's okay. You can just go move $1. And they would physically have to move the dollar. Their money was on the refrigerator so they could see it. They couldn't have it until the end of the week. And it would shift based on their behavior. We had very clear expectations and very clear consequences. Children need that. And so it helped them. It really helped them to this day. And it helped me not to yell at them. They knew what was expected and they abided by it. It was good.
You see me over here writing notes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But you're going to stop talking about my birthday, boo.
Yeah,
you hear me?
Yes. Oh, he's my guy.
Because you know my birthday's the same week as
Yes.
That's my guy.
When I tell you, listen, my children are my pride and joy. And I would always say both of them give me both pride and joy. But Cameron stayed making me proud. Always doing something to make me proud. But that Aaron, child, the joy that he brings me at the thought of his name. I can't even think about him without smiling. That's how he makes me feel. So I'm very blessed. I have amazing kids.
I love it. You do have amazing kids. And I've always loved that you called one pride and one joy because that is just so cute. Like it's a phrase that everybody uses, but nobody uses it quite like Dr. Z. Let me tell you, that's adorable. I love it. I already told you on our pre-interview that I've always admired you as a parent, and you looked at me like I was crazy. Well, we weren't looking at each other, but I could hear your face. So I could hear your face.
Got to give yourself grace.
Say that again.
Give yourself grace. As parents, we have to give ourselves grace, and we don't always do that. I look back on it, and I'm just thinking about the fact that Cameron's like, no, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, but he'll tell me, but you did all right. I'm like, do you think you turned out all right? He's like, I'm all right. I'm like, oh, okay. Just checking. So.
Just all right. Okay. I'm going to take it back to the very first introduction of you as a mom. Because you did not have time as a wife. 9 months is not enough time, especially when you automatically find out you're carrying. You become a mother basically as soon as you find out you're with child. So do you ever feel like you wanted more time as just wife? Cameron grew up in your marriage. You grew up in your marriage with Cameron, you and Bob. Do you want more time as just the wife, or are you taking that now?
I would say, I never really thought about that, but I think everything went exactly the way it was supposed to go. I feel like, he came at a time in my career when it worked out. Like, we worked opposite schedules. Bob was working 3 to 11. I was working 7 to 3. Like it worked. Like we could just swap the baby out and keep going. Like it just kind of worked with our lives at the time. So I think it made sense. And now, because we did start so early, now we have this time together to really enjoy each other. We're not so old And I say old, like, I've retired from principaling. I still work and doing the consulting thing, but Bob and I spent a ton of time with each other. And we were fortunate, again, in my planning self, being very intentional. What are we doing? What's this life going to look like once the kids are gone? And so we were very intentional about making sure that it meant that we would know and enjoy each other. And we do that. So I'm glad. I'm 50 and I'm not feeling like life is slowing down at all. This is, 50 is the new 30. What we doing out here? We living.
That is awesome. I cannot wait until I get to that point. Trust and believe. Now, I started late. I had mine when I was 32, and I feel every ache in my body on top of all the aches that she creates for me. So I'm going to work on being a positive parent. I am. Because baby.
Yes.
But I'm looking forward to that too.
You know what? But Timmy, I have to tell you, I remember because when we were together in ministry, you didn't have children. And I just love. I mean, I remember from the moment you announced your pregnancy. I mean, you were glowing. It's the most beautiful thing ever, ever. And guess what? You have a baby girl. And there's something about this child development stuff now. I don't know. I only have two boys. So I sometimes, if I go to a wedding, when they play that mother son song, I'm crying because I know that's going to be me. My sons are both going to be showing me two fingers in the air and they're going to be out of here. But girls, while you may have your challenges during their teenage years, and I promise you, you will, when they get in their 20s, that's your best friend. So you are so blessed. That's what you could be looking forward to. When you and her are going to be besties, going shopping and all those things. Whereas I'm resorted to make sure that I absolutely adore the girlfriends and wives that will be, because otherwise I won't be able to have a relationship with them. They'll be going and living their own lives. So enjoy it while they last.
It's
I
already
promise you,
going
it goes so
fast.
fast.
Like I stare at those pictures of her as a baby and I'm just like, where is this person? That is not. She's so big. Why are you so big? Like, what is happening? It was just yesterday. So thank you. I am working on appreciating this time, even the time where she's smothering me,
Yes.
because I know I won't get that in a few years. So thank you for reminding me of the blessing that I have.
Yes.
All right.
Gratitude is the anecdote. Yes, gratitude.
Such an
Gratitude.
educator.
You have so much to be grateful for. She's so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
She's so beautiful. It's such, and her personality is just so beautiful. Like I love that she has all of that personality. That's her it power. That's her superpower.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. And you will hear more. I might have to send her to Atlanta when you get bored.
Let's go. I love all the babies. I would kiss her on the lips, but I do that. I sneak kisses.
You just felt like that.
And then I hand your kid back to you like I didn't. I'm like, oh no, I didn't kiss him. Lipstick all over me. I got my red lipstick on.
All over her. So. And Tommy will be like, you have a lipstick on. But okay, so we learned a little bit about Zanthia, but let's learn a little bit more in a game called Tea Time. Because I'm excited. Zan is smiling and she's ready. So let's get started. Tea Time is a game of rapid fire. I have come up with a bunch of questions, same questions for everyone, listeners. Some of them are deep, some of them are just for fun. Zanthia was privy to the questions a couple days before we recorded, but I don't know if she actually saw them. So, as always, she will not know which questions are being selected because they are being selected randomly. But she will have 3 minutes to answer as many questions as she can and give us just a little more insight into who she is. Listeners, are you ready? Zanthia, Dr. Z, are you ready?
I am. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, here we go. First question. At what age did you decide you wanted to become a mom, if at all?
I always knew I wanted to be a mom. There's no specific age.
What's the most unexpected compliment you've received?
I got a compliment when Cameron was at Duke University. One of his teachers, one of his professors came over to me and said that she could not believe she had never met a young person who revered his mother as much. Fast forward, I tell you, half the time these days, like I told you, he told me I got everything wrong, but yet he was in college singing my praises. So that was unexpected.
That's beautiful, though. That's awesome. How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a person who really wanted to help other people. My life goal is to make a difference and to empower others. I just want to serve.
That's awesome. Manis and petties or a happy hour with the girls?
Manis and petties for sure. I'm not much of a drinker.
Do you cry easily?
No, but as I've aged a lot more, I cry a lot more easily. Things really do touch me.
Especially at weddings.
Right.
Do you have a favorite weekend activity?
Let me tell you something. I go to Word of Faith Family Worship Cathedral in Austell, Georgia. Bishop Dale Bronner, the truth. I love church on the weekends. Love it.
Yes. I love church. I love that. When are you the most secure?
I really love when I'm with my husband. I feel best like in his arms, like literally.
That's so precious. So precious.
So
What
funny.
age would you choose to be? What age would you choose to be for the rest of your life and why? 20 seconds.
Um, I like the age that I am. 50 is fine. 50 is fabulous.
Yes, ma'am. What's one thing you want to hear as a mom?
I love you. And I hear it often, so I'm blessed.
Zanthia, thank you so much for playing tea time with us. Those answers were lovely, and you might not remember many of them. So make sure you listen to the full episode whenever we release your episode.
Okay.
I want to say to you again, thank you so much for coming through and just being yourself. You've always been somebody that I've looked up to. Your energy. Now, I know people say that you do too much, or what did you tell me that they said and you didn't know about, that you have a big
Sometimes
personality or something?
yes, apparently sometimes I'm like a whole lot. Who knew? I thought I was
But it's not a bad thing. That's why when you told me, I said, well, is it a bad thing? You didn't know that you were a lot? I'm a lot. So my allotness sees your allotness, and I'm like, family, cousin,
we
this is
just out here a lot.
exciting. A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Yes. But yeah,
But
I do. Yeah, we're in a season. Be yourself. Why not? Another way.
yes. I love it. And I'm grateful that you have always been yourself. I'm grateful that you've always been true to yourself. Because of that, you have so much wisdom to give. I love that you said that you just want to be a servant to and be able to give to people. You've always been a resource. And so much so that there was a point where I was in a layoff season and I almost forgot about this, and I hope I don't get teary-eyed, but I was laid off and I was in between jobs and I was at the end point of my being laid off, and me coming from the background of being a voiceover artist to not knowing where I was going because people were interviewing me and saying, that's a great resume, but unfortunately you're not qualified. It just had me in a state of depression. And you reached out to me and you said, apply for this job at my school. And to me, it didn't make sense because of where I was going to go and how I was going to get there. And you said, we have an extra car that you can drive. Just take this and come to the school. Now, the job didn't work out because of, I don't remember why the job didn't work out, but I ended up going into education and
Mhm.
being a substitute teacher in the city, which was closer to me. And for that, like, you have confirmed that you are who you say you are. You have confirmed that you are a giver, and you've confirmed that your heart is willing to do the work to get people to where you've already been and where you're going. So I appreciate that for
Oh,
you. I am excited for this book.
yes. Thank you.
And I hope that all the listeners check it out. It's not that expensive. It's $24.99. Is it plus shipping and handling?
Well, it's
Is that
$20.
the
It's $20 plus the
oh? So
4.99 for shipping and handling. Mm-hmm.
bet awesome. So please check out the links because you need to buy this book. You're going to learn about those 4 P's: positivity, preparation, perspective, and positioning.
Yeah.
And I can tell you live on this microphone that I will be incorporating that into my parenting. And I'm going to come back to Dr. Z and tell her, you were right, girl. You were right. This is
Oh,
working for me. So thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to shut up and stop rambling and singing your praises, although you deserve it.
oh,
And I'm going
thank
to
you.
allow you to share some of your wisdom to the mothers that are out there. What do you want to leave with them before you go?
I just want to encourage every mother to continue to pour love into your children. They are blessings. And I think we take for granted our children while they're in our homes and they do everything that we say, like where they have to do whatever is said because we're the parent. I encourage you to listen to your children. Let them discover their voices, have conversation with them, like talking. Like that's one of the other things that I regret. Talk to your children. Let them have express their opinions and things like that and engage in real conversation. Get to know them as people. That's the one thing when I talk to young people, to that young adults, including my own sons, they want to make sure that we as parents know them as individuals, not for what they do. So not as human doings, but as human beings. Get to know your babies, love your babies, and enjoy them. It only lasts so long before they fly the coop. And I promise you, you will wish you could go back and do some things differently. So while you're in it, be intentional about making a positive, loving home for your babies that they'll always want to come back to.
Loving it. Thank you for that. Listeners, I hope you took notes. And if you didn't, you can always start over and pull out your notebook. Just saying. But there you have it.
Yes.
So, my last questions before you go: is parenting challenging?
Yes, it is.
But are they still standing?
Yes. Standing about 6'7" and 6'8". So yes.
And they finally surpassed you, right?
Oh, for sure. They did that in like 6th or 7th grade. But yes.
This is a tall family, y'all.
Yes.
So, what do you want to proudly shout to our listeners today?
This mama is nailing it.
Yes, nailing it. I love the smile that you had when you said it. She is nailing it, y'all. And so much so that you can connect to her. And if you want to connect with Dr. Z, please make sure you visit the Empowered website at empowered, that's with an I and 2Ds.com. And you can also check out helpmehelpmyballer.com. Also, purchase the book Alley Oop at alleyoopbook.com. So, Listeners, all of those links will be in the bottom of the comments, so you can easily access any of those links. Connect with Dr. Z. She has a consulting firm for parents of athletes, and she's talking to women in transition. So, that's just a little bit of what she's offering. So please do not just take my word for it. Visit the website and see what she's about. Support this Black mama's visions. Okay.
Yes.
If you like this episode and you want to hear more personal parenting stories, subscribe to my social media, Nailed It Motherhood Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. But let me just add, don't just follow us, like us, rate us, share. You know what I mean? You can also be a guest on the podcast by completing a guest application. The link is in the bio. We welcome your questions, comments, and ideas, and we certainly hope to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep on doing what it is that you do. Bye.
Bye.